Pete Dog.
G Malone, what's happening?
What's the deal, man?
Just trying to survive. Just trying to survive. That's all.
Trying to survive in South Central, a place where busting the cap is fundamental. Um, I, all week, and it's funny, once you brought it up, I noticed like so much stuff is going on with abortions. Um,
That's
I
true.
see they're trying to overturn Roe versus Wade, and I've seen that title a million times, but I don't quite know what Roe versus Wade is. And I'm sure you vested in what Roe versus Wade is. So what is Roe versus Wade?
Roe versus Wade is a Supreme Court case that passed in I want to say the 1970s that essentially affords federal protection for the right to any woman in the United States to get an abortion. And there's not really any language further than that. It just says that essentially you can do that to any point in the abortion by sort of any means necessary. There's been subsequent cases and challenges to it from all angles on both sides for as many years as it's been in effect.
Mm. So I was looking at it
So,
on I was looking at it. The decision involved the case of Norma McCorvey, known by the legal pseudonym Jane Roe, who
yeah,
in
I was gonna say, yeah, it's a pseudonym
1969
name.
Yeah, who in 1969 became pregnant with her third child. McCorvey wanted an abortion, but lived in Texas, where abortion was illegal, except when necessary to save the mother's life. Her attorneys, Sarah Weddington and Linda Coffey, filed a lawsuit on her behalf in U.S. federal court against her local district attorney, Henry Wade, alleging that Texas abortion laws were unconstitutional. A three-judge panel of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas heard the case and ruled in her favor. Texas then appealed directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1973, the Supreme Court issued a 7-2 decision in McCorvey's favor, ruling that the due process clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides a right to privacy that protects a pregnant woman's right to choose whether to have an abortion. That's deep.
Cor- Correct. And there's a case that's up for decision now that has something to do with like the civil liability of the not the woman getting the abortion, I believe, the entity performing the abortion. So it would be the doctor or a Planned Parenthood or whatever else are all parties involved in that matter, basically minus the woman. So it pretty much punches a hole in Roe versus Wade. The issue with that is people look at it and go, oh, well, that means you're going to make abortion illegal in the United States. It really doesn't. It just defers it back to the states. So you could have a state like Texas that goes, we're not going to have any abortions at all. You could have a state like California that says, we're going to give you all the abortions you want and then some or whatever.
Are you a conservative, Pete,
I mean,
or do
yeah,
you
you could probably say
identify?
I'm 9 out of 10. Yes, I'm a lot of conservatives are very ethical and moral people. I would never profess to be one of those.
You're not that kind of
So
conservative.
no, I'm a small government, constitutional libertarian, um, for the most part. I'm actually pro-abortion. You know,
You're
um,
pro-abortion?
yeah, I'm pro-abortion. I think it's probably the most low rent political pedestal you can take in this country. I mean, like as a woman, you're basically just advocating for a license to sluttery, and as a dude, you're just advocating for a license to be let off the hook for irresponsible behavior, whatever. But until they have, you know, boss versus the state of Florida that says, hey, I told her to get the abortion. She said no. Now she wants me to pay. That was her choice, not mine. Until that case is settled in my favor, then I'm pro-abortion. Before Chappelle said "my money, my choice," I said that 10 years before him. He stole that line from me.
That's your line.
That's
I
been my
believe
line.
it too, because that definitely sounds like a Pete line.
I've been saying that for a good decade plus.
And I see that's the kind of cool thing, I guess, to be pro-abortion. I'm actually anti-abortion. It kind of.
I'm not mad at that.
Again, the running theme of no ceilings and women when it comes to accountability, that is the cherry on top of a lack of accountability. Like
you better believe it, buddy.
Avoid accountability at this level. And normally you hear a lot of women, oh, well, what if I got raped? You didn't get raped. Now somebody did get raped, you didn't get raped. And we always go to these measures of extreme, feel me, to have these conversations.
Yeah, without a criminal conviction, you don't have your abortion. I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, like I just think
if he walks, you're pushing.
I just think it's so scummy. And I don't know. It
is the scummiest shit in the world.
And I'm being honest. Like, I'm just being honest, dog. Like, I know a lot of my homegirls, maybe even some of my female family members are going to be upset, but it's what I really feel. Nothing about it feels right. I don't care if it's legal.
I've never got a girl pregnant before, but I once drove a friend of mine to get an abortion. This is interesting. It was over in Long Beach by that Long Beach hospital across the street from there. There's abortions and they do them on Fridays.
Memorial.
Yeah. And you go in because the person can't drive afterwards because I think she got like put under or something. So there's a room full of dudes, right? And I'm like the only one there that didn't fuck the broad who's on the other side of the door. But I'm telling you, after a couple of hours, when everybody realizes they're actually doing it, it was the greatest environment of a group of men. It was the tension and relief amongst everybody in the room was just so palpable. I was just like checking my watch, like, can we get the fuck out of here? I'm starving. But everybody else is just like, you could cut the relief with a knife. That's probably the wrong choice of words for this particular topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I fucked that up a little bit.
No ceilings. GL, my man Peter in the Spiznot as always, rocking, cuz. I don't know. I just can't. I don't think it's right. Like I'm anti it. Now, I don't know if the solution is for the government to ban it, or for states to ban it. Like, I'm not saying that that's what I would push for. Like, I'm just being honest with my thoughts. I'm anti-abortion. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't make logical sense. And even when I hear people talk about it, they talk about it like it's not a baby growing. They're like, oh, it's just, you could cancel your pregnancy. It's like there's a child growing in your stomach.
I just watched Tyson Fury on Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson from a couple years ago. He said he was born super premature at less than 2 pounds. That's like some second trimester shit for a guy that fucking size. I'm like, he was well within the target range.
So I've noticed since this bill has been, they're talking about revoking this actual Roe versus Wade. They're talking about, I guess, Supreme Court is I guess rethinking exactly were they right to do that? You know what I mean? To overrule Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know this. So if you listen to this podcast, America is not really a country. It is a country, but it's not a country. It's almost imagine like a continent with a bunch of different countries there that have their own laws. And then there's an overall sense of a few laws that go through every state, but they're not
Mm-hmm.
many. And that's the reason why in Texas, it's so easy to access a gun, right? It's nothing to have a gun. You can you might not go to jail with a gun. They might pull you over with a gun and cite you out. You know what I'm saying? Like whether you have a legal right to own it or not, long as the gun ain't dirty. Um, but if you get caught with drugs, feel me, any amount of drugs, you're going to prison. And
Yeah.
when you go to New York, if you get caught with drugs, like a buddy of mine got caught with a bird and got 7 months. Like he ended up doing 7 months. That's it. But Lil Wayne, who has millions of dollars, when I'm signing Cash Money Records at that time, he has millions of dollars. A gun was on his tour bus, not in his possession, and they sent him to prison, complete with the
Yeah.
parole number.
That was
So every
an
state,
attorney general grandstanding or a DA
yeah,
grandstanding
yeah.
big time.
But that's their laws there though.
Yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
everybody who gets caught with a gun, Plexico Burris, the football player, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
You're going to, you're going to prison. It's just they don't play about guns. So,
That's true.
every something else most people don't know, right? Every state has its own rules and laws. So, like how most people feel R. Kelly is disgusting, or they think anytime you talk to some girl under 18 that that's some sense of pedophile, right? A pedophile is somebody who deals with children that are prepubescent, like they haven't had puberty or periods. That's a pedophile. So anybody who's had a period, right? No longer, if you interact with that person, are you a pedophile? There are proper words for that. Ebophile, hebephile. It's a few different words, but you're not a pedophile. But the point I'm making is, it's more states in the United States of America, in this union, that allow you to have sex with somebody 16 than there is 18. So when you get a chance, you listening to this podcast, because once this shit over, go look at the legal age of consent around the United
Tell
States of
everybody
America.
listening to our show to go run around and find out where they can go to knock down a 16-year-old.
I don't think nobody that listens to this podcast. I mean, it might be some young boys listening to this podcast, some high schoolers, but
I'm
I
not
don't
worried
think
about the young dudes.
I don't think nobody. I don't know why nobody in their 20s or 30s would want some 16-year-old pussy. I just don't believe that. I mean, obviously it has to be true, but have you ever been around a 16-year-old girl? They're the most annoying. Like women already is some bullshit. You feel me? Like grown women, older women, feel me, is some shit. Who the fuck would want to deal with somebody 16, 17, 18? That's just weird. Like I can't deal with nobody 20 at this point in life. It's just tough, man. It's women already got some shit going on, and you deal with somebody like that, and they just goofy. You know what I'm saying? Like I think some women, they shapes can fool you. You feel me? Because they can develop fast. But as soon as that motherfucker open his mouth, you're gonna realize this motherfucker's a baby. So, I mean, I hope you're not listening to this podcast and trying to scheme on how to get some 16-year-old pussy. It's not worth it. Like
It's not.
you need a counselor. If you 28, 30 years old and you want some 16-year-old pussy, you need a counselor, because there's nothing somebody 16 can really do. I don't give a fuck if the sluttiest 16-year-old in the world you run into, she can't fuck with a slut that's 28. Feel me? So it only could be like weird things like you want to be somebody else's first, which that's just lame. You need a counselor, you need a psychologist. It's a few things where if you're looking at somebody under 18 and you're of age, 25, 30, and you're looking at somebody 16, 17 years old, bro, just go see a psychologist. Feel me? Even if it ain't against the law, something is wrong and you just like something wrong, like either your intelligence is not there, something is wrong. You know what I mean? Like people talk shit about R. Kelly, and I hate how they did R, because all of these girls are not young girls. Some of them was old and every age. But if people who really know R, it's a literacy issue there that nobody talks about. So again, I don't know if maybe I don't know if they want to color books and he can color with them. I don't know what the fuck he looking at somebody 16 to 17. But again, it's not what we want it to be. And that don't mean that what happened to him was an injustice. This is something that should have got that man, feel me, 5-6 years, whatever that is on that.
What did he get ultimately?
Huh?
What did he get?
I don't even remember. He got some crazy or was facing crazy time. But they made it like trafficking and all kind of lame shit. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't true. R. Kelly,
and they give you 50 years ahead, so it's like, they always want to posture, and the attorney and the police officer, like every time that you hear a drug bust, you hear again, you caught a wholesale shipment 3 marks up the supply chain. That's a $2 million sale. This is $700 million in the streets. That guy's not selling it on the streets. You just want to sound good for the newspaper, you jackass. And this person, they could face up to 600 years. They're going to get 13 years. Just shut up.
I seen that they was talking about it was somebody in Orange County that got popped with fentanyl. It's like 20 pounds of fentanyl. It was like, this product could kill all of Orange County.
Not when you put that much meth on top of it.
I was like, man, I get it. Fentanyl some bullshit, especially you got to remember the type of motherfuckers that's fucking with drugs, especially in our community. They not necessarily motherfuckers who got A's in chemistry. They didn't have chemistry like glasses did. You feel me? So
you know what just happened out here?
What's that?
It's spring break. It's college kids, right? One of them was I think a West Point student, the military academy for the Army. I see the Army Navy games be the Army. But it was like the movie The Hangover. Remember in The Hangover when they got Mike Epps? He was Black Doug, and the guy with no tooth. You mean to tell me the drug dealer in the liquor store parking lot wasn't a good guy? Well, these 6 idiots came down here and bought coke off of some random person that they had no connection to at all, and it was stepped on with too much fentanyl, and it killed 6 dudes. There's 6 people who are college students. Apparently, they don't teach thinking for half a second in college. Thinking for half a second 101 is not part of the curriculum in college anymore. Let's go out of state to a town known for dirty hustlers and buy weed or buy coke we know nothing about and snort it at a party. Get the fuck out of here. I felt bad for none of those kids.
I mean, I feel bad for their parents.
I feel bad for the parents. I don't feel bad for the kids.
I'm sure. But again, man, like, oh man, that's tough. 6 people died. And it's crazy because
same night, same house.
But I had an epiphany coming over here that we now live in a society, where so little accountability. I mean, I think it's accountability for us, but women and other people that's not us, you feel me? It's weird because we've created a space, right, where doing drugs is okay. Like, let me ask you a question. Do you think doing drugs is okay even if you're not addicted? Like, let's say you hanging out with me and I do an occasional line. Is that good? Is that okay?
All I can say is this much. I'm a complete train wreck of a human being. I've never done a drug in my life. So I can, there's that. Anybody that I know, that I knew them before they started fucking around with some bullshit, and then I found out they caught a lot of an earful from me. I think it's a dumb thing to do. I don't know if it's necessarily the end of the world. The thing is this: some people, their brain chemistry, they're like, it was cool, it was whatever. Some people are like, that was the greatest fucking 5 minutes of my entire goddamn life. And you don't know which one you are until you know. And you don't know which powder you got until you know. And you don't know which pill you got until you know. And that's why you just don't need to find out.
Issue where the drug dealers are getting the complete blame. And that's why I was asking, because I'm like, the drug dealers are getting the complete blame. And it's like, yo, you're buying an illegal substance off the streets. Like, yes, do you blame the person selling it? Sure, they're responsible. But also the person buying it is just as responsible.
Absolutely. I think that that's crap.
And I think we're in a space again, where people don't have to deal in accountability, which takes us back, to what I was thinking about when I was thinking about abortions. I was like, how could somebody be pro killing a child? And then like, I always hear like, oh, it's a woman's body. And I'm like, the fuck does
not
a woman's body have to do with anything?
The baby's body is not a woman's body.
That's like, this is not like a woman's, like, there's a child growing in there. It's a child.
Should a woman be allowed to drive drunk? Should a woman be allowed to drive drunk? It's a woman's body. She can do with it as she pleases. She could intoxicate her body and hop behind the wheel of a car. It's her body. She can do it as she wants.
I mean, so by that same standard, if it's everybody's body, then why for years? Okay, let's say we're going into a space now where this is changing. But let's say since that conversation, that court case with Roe versus Wade in 1969, why are we actually prosecuting drug addicts? It's their body.
Yeah.
It's their body. Why, if you trying to kill yourself, you could be prosecuted or put in jail?
That's bizarre to me.
You could actually go to jail.
Motorcycle helmet law.
So, I mean, when does this, some of the sense, it's senseless. And again, I'm not upset at anybody pro-abortion. I just don't know how you could consciously, be okay with that. It's just a bit weird to me. It's like, okay, let's say I'm not okay with it. That don't mean I don't understand the purpose for it. I'm anti it. I don't like it. I don't want it to be. Feel me? But again, human beings have choice. Like, I think we came into this space to where because I'm anti something, I have to campaign against it. No, that just literally means I can frown upon it and look at it weird as fuck as it is. But it's weird to watch people change it into a space, right, that they feel is acceptable, right, where they feel that it's, it's like it's almost like they try to normalize it.
Or champion it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's almost kind of like, say on the drugs topic, if we're at a party and everybody's got lines of coke laid out on the coffee table, like, hey, Pete, you trying to get this line? I'd be like, nah, I'm cool. All right, that's cool. It's not like, you want this line? No, I'm calling the police immediately. What the fuck, man? What an asshole. But if you say, are you pro-abortion? Nah, I don't support that shit. Doesn't mean that you got a problem with somebody else who does necessarily to that extent where you're trying to like fucking advocate or stop them. It's just not your.
I'm not on the marketing side of anything. Like I'm not campaigning on any of these matters. I'm not for it. I'm anti. I don't like it. You know what I mean? It's legal, so I understand and I accept it for other people's fate. I wish it was illegal. Am I going to go out of my way to try to stop progress in which people think it's okay to, murder, growing babies? I'm not going to go out of my way because that's your own murder case. Like, I wouldn't advise you to get in the way of me when I'm going to deal with my issues. Feel me? But I just don't get how we could have a world so pro murdering growing babies in somebody's stomach and then disguise it as, oh, it's just her body. Oh, it's her body, her choice. Well, then at that point, if you get caught with drugs, you should not go to jail. Why are you going to jail? It's your body. And if you want to put drugs in your body, that should be your choice. I don't.
On the flip side,
when does the silliness stop?
I don't know. I mean, there's certainly some slippery territory as far as this quote unquote defining when does life begin thing. Because if a woman's pregnant and she's driving on her way to the abortion clinic, and I'm drunk as shit behind the wheel, and I fall asleep, and I go into oncoming traffic, and I hit her head on, and she survives, but the baby dies.
They can still charge you with murder or manslaughter.
I'm getting big time, big time, big time. I'm getting murdered too.
So not most states, because all states are different, but what's the furthest along you can be in any state that's legal? Is it 20
I
weeks?
don't I don't know if at this point there's any law that's held up to that, because that would fall in. I mean, they basically define Roe versus Wade up until the moment of birth. So they
Is it
tried
that
to,
far? You can
yeah,
abort a
they've,
child at 8 months?
yeah. There's late term abortions. That's a real thing. So, best of my understanding, there were states that tried to put a cap on it at 2 trimesters. That's gone to court. I didn't follow up on as to how resolved it was. If it was resolved one way or the other, it could have gone up to through the appellate system and gotten kicked back down. But there's not a lot of. I mean, to me, like personally, like my personal opinion is, you know how you can like through an ultrasound you can see a baby in the womb like respond to, like if you were to probe it or touch it, it has the sensory nervous system intact enough to understand it just got poked, or you just ran an infrared wave or something through it, and it gets like whatever. That means it can feel it. If the baby's old enough to feel it, that's a little shaky to me.
Yeah.
This is my personal thing. Yeah. Like,
Abortion is legal in California, both for teens and adults. You have the right to get an abortion for any
for
reason
teens and
until,
adults.
yeah.
So
You
all those
have the
pregnant
right
11-year-olds.
you have the right to get an abortion for any reason until approximately 6 months after you become pregnant. After that, if the pregnancy puts your health or life at risk, you can still get an abortion.
And I don't even know
Yeah.
what that means.
I mean, I guess they feel like if you have the child and this growing child is threatening your existence. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess that would be self defense.
that just means that you got a doctor to give you a write off of whatever they claim, which is, as we saw with in California with license can. How many people got? There was a doctor that wore a cannabis suit on Venice Beach saying everybody who walked by had anxiety disorder and needed marijuana. Or every idiot that brings a German Shepherd onto an airplane because they need an emotional support dog because their psychologist gave them a prescription for it, a prescription, sorry, for the dog. And there's enough doctors that'll write down whatever if you pay them.
No, it's just such a tough thing, even reading about it. And it's just crazy to listen to women talk about it so liberally. And they always say, well, no man should tell a woman what to do with their body. And I'm like, I don't think I care about the body as much as an unborn child. That's just that's a lot to me. And I don't know where did we get into a space to make this okay? Like we've the thought is we've evolved so much as a society to where people don't like, there's a culture of people that don't want to eat animals, or anything related to an animal.
Interestingly enough, those are mostly also the pro-abortion people.
I'd hope not.
Oh
I
yeah.
hope nobody vegan.
There's
I
no
pray
hardcore
no
right-wing
one
Christian
vegan.
conservatives that are vegan, and there are no far left-wing vegans that are anti-abortion. I'm just telling you, what's a pro-abortion hub? Santa Monica, West LA, San Francisco. How do those districts vote?
If you are a vegan and you are pro-abortion, you are a piece of shit. If you support PETA, if you consider yourself a part of fucking PETA, cuz, and you support abortion, bro, you deserve to be fucking hung on a cross. Like, oh my God, you should be hung, bro. They should cut your fucking hair. How the fuck could you be pro animals' life and pro, like, how could you be a PETA member or animal supporter or a dog? People who support animals. Like, I know people who have dogs and are super dog people, but were having an abortion.
Mhm.
That is fucking crazy.
Dude, did you see what they're doing in China with the pets? This is
No.
fantastic. China has a zero COVID target, which is the stupidest thing you ever heard in your life. But they've locked down Shanghai, which is the wealthiest city in China, and it's 25 million people. And they've not locked them down like we had a lockdown. You can't leave your residence. You can't open the windows and the doors. You are locked the fuck in, right? So they were testing all these people, and people who got tested positive for COVID, they threw them in internment camps. So if they had pets, there's videos of these Chinese Communist Party government officials just like killing these dogs with shovels because the owners got taken into internment camps. And there's a video on YouTube, I'll send it to you, of these cats, just like sacks of cats. Like each sack has like half a dozen cats in them, and they're just tied up, lined up in a row across the sidewalk because their owners got taken to internment camps. So they just sacked up all the cats and left them on the sidewalk, and they just meowing in these sacks. It's really quite something. But China also was very pro-abortion for a long time because they had the one child first policy. So those people said, well, if my firstborn's a daughter, we're going to abort that sucker and we're going to keep all these sons, which is why it's very difficult to get laid as a man in China now because there's a disproportionate number of men of a certain age demographic.
So China has announced that it will allow couples to have up to 3 children after census data showed a steep decline in birth rates. The population grew at its slowest pace in decades.
Correct.
Sheesh. I don't know, man. I don't know. Sometimes I even wonder, I always wonder, why would God put me on this earth? This is crazy. This is crazy. Like we in a time where people just say that shit. That's nothing to them. And then they be like, oh, it's a woman's body. I had a conversation with a friend and I was telling her like we are going through everything to like, how do we as a society pervert so much shit? Like, how do we just allow that conversation? Oh, it's a woman's body. Like, that is not about what her. Nobody said you can't get tattoos. Nobody said you can't pierce what you want to pierce. Nobody said you can't do nothing you don't want. You could do anything you want to do. They allow you to get fake titties, fake ass. You could do anything.
There's an entire industry of sexual toys that are made specifically for women because I don't think that there's a man that could accommodate some of these multi-pronged devices.
I just don't get how could everybody be so pro-abortion. That's just crazy. I almost think I be going crazy, cuz this shit crazy. Where the fuck are we, in a Twilight Zone? I don't know, man. I was talking to one of my partners earlier, the homie Manny, and we were just talking about women, and he feels like I'm a bit harsh, like I'm a bit too critical. And his thing is always like, Glasses, man, why do you care? Why do you care what somebody else is doing? And I'm like, what type of society do we live in that you don't care what somebody else is doing? Like, where do we live that we are being taught to We don't care what nothing else is going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh, it don't
totally.
matter. It's
Yeah.
not me. It's like, but that's the point of a society.
That's why they have laws. It's not necessarily for what most laws are passed by people who intend to abide by them because they're concerned with what the other person is going to do. You know, that's just the truth. And like,
But we even have laws against acts against ourselves.
mm,
You know what I mean? Again, if you in so many states now they're starting to catch up and say, okay, if you do drugs, we won't criminally prosecute you. I mean, that's not obviously every state. That's not the majority of states. But again, when do we start caring about the rest of society? I don't know if I'm tripping. Like I don't get what's so hard to understand about this.
I hear you. I mean, and there's a lot of issues. I mean, there's a lot of really murky stuff. We live in a society now that's very social program oriented. You know, I mean, particularly like one of the biggest. I think maybe the biggest. I think I know for a fact the largest single category for funding of the U.S. general budget on a state and federal level is healthcare related subsidies. Well, if you're allowed to smoke cigarettes, that's fine. I'm not telling you not to smoke cigarettes. But if you have long term, chronic, expensive, health related issues stemming from those cigarettes that you chose to smoke, I sure as fuck don't want to have to pay for all that shit. It's going to come out to about $200,000 by the time you kick the bucket. I don't have an issue with doing what you want to do. You, okay, I want to be a smoker. All right, fine. Sign this piece of paper here. You can smoke all you want to. And you are now, like when you go somewhere that might have something dangerous happen, you have to sign a waiver. Okay, you want to smoke cigarettes? Sign this waiver here. And anything that happens to you medically as a result of those cigarettes, it is not the rest of society's job to pay for. It doesn't bother me.
I guess, yeah, that's not crazy. They make you sign a waiver when you go through anything else that's dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know, Pete. This is a really depressing conversation to me.
Seems like I didn't realize we were going to take this so hard.
Man, I didn't either. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I know the conversation and the thought of abortion is so casual. It's like nobody cares. And I'm like, damn.
Well, it's casual if it's on your side. Like being anti-abortion in an anti-abortion environment is a very casual, yeah, I should be able to do that. That's, but being the opposite, people are really casual talking about their right to abortion, but tell them that they don't deserve their right to an abortion and they go fucking nuts. They go insane. That's the thing I don't understand. To me is like I've had, I was at a wedding a while back. I was like, what? This is just terrible. I was like, after the wedding, everyone was having cocktails and some idiot girl was talking to me about God knows what. And this conversation turns to abortion. I'm like, oh my God. And she was like 45-year-old burnout of a chick with no kids, just going on and on and on about her right to abortion and no. I'm like, sweetheart, if you don't get pregnant in about the next 45 minutes, you're not even going to be eligible for a pregnancy, let alone an abortion, for one. For two, if your greatest live and die cause in your life is an advocacy for your own irresponsible sluttery, what do you want from me at that point? I'm not going to fight you that hard either which way, but if that's your cause in life, I should be able to get nutted in, God damn it, 7 nights a week. And if I get pregnant, I should be able to get that son of a bitch ripped out of there. If that's your life's cause, I think maybe you have a priorities problem.
So this shit is depressing, so I ain't going to keep going. But I just wanted to ask you a question. And I know you're not a psychologist. And I wish I had Uncle Mook on, right, who has a master in psychology, or Dr. Hudson, who has doctorates in psychology, right, an actual doctor. But why do you think what's going on in people's mind, right? Like somebody could be super intrigued, like be a part of PETA or a vegan, and really literally their goal is to protect the life of animals, or you know, whatever it is to protect animals. Why would those same people, how are these people rationalizing, like internalizing the thought of killing a baby, and it's not being a big deal? Like, what am I missing?
Truthfully, I think in a lot of these cases, they're also like very secular people who don't have religion. I mean, if we're doing the statistical probability thing, a lot of the progressive left vegan pro-abortion crowd is not a religious crowd. So they've kind of substituted in this fervor as, for a lot of these topics as being more of a personal identity matter. They want to be a part of a group. They want to identify with this group. The whole identity matters to them more than their own personal identity. They don't have a faith in God. They have a faith in this group. And you saw a lot of the same stuff. Those same people were like really hardcore with locking down COVID stuff. You should have a right to an abortion, but you shouldn't have the right to go to the bar where you might meet a woman and fuck her who then could get her abortion. So what are we doing? It's just a lot of passion, I think, to feel like you're a part of something and tying that to the way that you see yourself in the mirror.